Hey guys, I'm participating in a massive 13-player playthrough of EU4 multiplayer. All of the large nations that you can see here are player-controlled. We got Algiers, the Mamluks, the Ottomans. Muscovy has this giant alliance of awesomeness. Sweden, nice giant awesome alliance of awesomeness. I am playing France. Castile is playing as a player as well. Austria controls much of the universe. Poland as well is player controlled. We got ourselves a Saxony up in here who is a member of the Empire. Milan, who's also a smaller member of the Empire. And Venice is the final player controlled nation.
Yes, let's celebrate.
Do a little panda dance. Shake your panda butt.
Oh man, it's gonna be hard.
Panda butts are big.
Who is whose voice?
That's okay. You'll learn over the next 684 hours.
Yeah, you got it right. We start here. We got the France and.
I'm France. I sound French, don't I? That's my name. My name is officially France.
And I'm Austria.
Way to be Austria, dude.
Ja, ich soll die deutsche Sprache.
That's what it sounds like to be Austria, huh?
Don't they speak some kind of German too?
Voulez-vous de bear?
Anyway, in this time period, we all speak French. So.
Yeah, there you go. Well, only if you're rich. And I don't know how we're running these countries if we're not rich, but players, unlike AIs, don't necessarily dedicate their entire army to your cause, and even when they do bring their armies to fight in your cause, they don't do it the way that you necessarily want them to, right? They try to help, but that doesn't mean that they always succeed, and they don't always dedicate the entire funds of their entire nation, throw their nation into 20 loans worth of debt to fund enough army to just barely win the war for you the way that an AI would, right? AIs are willing to completely cripple themselves in order to help you win a war, even if the war they're helping you to win does not benefit them in any way. So, for example, Poland and Lithuania and the Teutonic Order and the Livonian Order and Wallachia and Bosnia and Zaporozhye are all one giant nation that will field separate armies and then stack them into one ball and let that one player control that one balled army to go do what he will with it. But Poland's player allies of Austria and Muscovy and Sweden can't be counted on in exactly the same way. For example, if Sweden decided that it was more important to fight rebels up in the north than it was to send troops down to help Poland fight against Bohemia, for a random example, then Sweden wouldn't send the troops. So there's always this balance, and I love this, in EU4 between conquering a nation or allying with a nation. So, for example, as France, if I conquer all three of these nations down here and own the entire Iberian Peninsula, just assuming for a second that the entire world doesn't say, hey, France is conquering the Iberian Peninsula, maybe we should put a stop to that. Even assuming that doesn't happen, there are two other big problems with that. One, the Iberian Peninsula probably fields about 100 gold per turn of income and 100,000 troops of force limits of, a possible army size, right? So they can field about 100,000 troops, and I can field about 100,000 troops. If I conquer them, then I won't suddenly be able to field 200,000 troops, because some of the coolness of this territory gets lost in the lack of the 3 merchants. Actually, they currently control 9 merchants that would just disappear if I conquered all of that territory. They also wouldn't have individual kings that could spend individual monarch power to improve their nation, right? So they'd stop building buildings to improve their territories, and their force limits would be a lot lower, and their manpower would be a lot lower because they were controlled by someone else. So instead of having 100 plus 100 both working together as allies, you'd have maybe 150 all controlled by one guy. And that sounds appealing if you're that one guy and you want to have 150,000 troops, but isn't it more appealing to have the help of 200,000 troops to do anything that needs doing? So in my opinion, it's always better to ally than it is to conquer, but if your ally can't be depended upon, you have to resort to conquering. So for example, if I allied with England and Castile, and then Austria attacked me, and then England and Castile both attacked me as well, after that war was over, if they said, well, okay, let's be friends again, because somehow through magic I won the war, I wouldn't want to, right? I would want to take their territory from them because they can't be trusted to use it in a way that benefits France. Benefits France! Right? So Poland and Austria also know the meaning of this sort of alliances are more important than conquest thing, right? So they both have lots of allies, and Poland is surrounded by Muscovy, Sweden, the Ottomans. See how they have these territories right on the border of the Ottomans? They're also right on the border of Venice and right on the border of I already said Austria, but Saxony can also get to Poland very easily. So Poland is surrounded by stuff, and they need to really go out of their way to convince everyone that they will make absolutely wonderful allies and they'll never backstab anyone and they can totally be trusted. Because if people start thinking that Poland can't be trusted, or even if they think that Poland can be trusted but isn't bringing very much to the table, there's lots of nice, delicious lands in this Poland, Lithuania, Hungarian, Zaporozhye, Teutonic Order, Livonian Order area, right?
Crush them under the imperial boot.
I don't crush any not unruly princes.
Who is France?
Me. My name is France.
No, Sweden.
Ah, you're Sweden. Okay, but
Half
Malmö,
Danish.
Malmö is- okay, half Danish. It's halfway there.
Yeah.
Oh no, propagator's belly.
You can't do that.
That's one aggressive France we got over here.
Hey, it popped up a thing saying, "Do you want to be at war?" And I was like, I don't have time to read this, so I clicked yes.
It's a secession war. Nice.
I will success.
Oh. It's yeah. Oh, that is awesome. That is just awesome.
So what is the point of this war?
You want to become king of Aragon.
Defend. I only have to defend? That doesn't make any sense. How do I become the king of Aragon by defending myself?
Right, you have to defend Barcelona, I guess. Isn't it?
So am I preventing someone from inheriting Aragon but not inheriting it myself?
Yeah, something like that.
It's Portugal.
So there's no benefit?
Portugal wanted to, you can get to become king of Aragon if you win the war.
Oh, okay. So if I go kill Portugal, then I get to be Aragon's king. That's cool.
Yeah,
They're like
exactly.
right next to me.
Yeah.
How observant.
I know, right? Hey, I've never played France. Be calm.
But you were so French before.
Hey, I'm playing France right now. That doesn't mean I've done it before.
Yes, let's celebrate.
Do a little panda dance. Shake your panda butt.
Everybody's out there conquering things, and I'm just sitting here in the mountains.
Crap.
Oh, somebody got something.
I have no army anymore.
Who was that?
Algiers.
Ah, cheers. Getting kicked. Saxony, warned ya. I am only the bringer of peace.
So lots of people want to make lots of friends. So this might lead you to think that the whole game would just be a bunch of players beating up on AIs and helping each other out, and nobody would ever want to backstab anyone. But you'd be a little bit wrong, because in the last playthrough there was a world war, in which Austria, Hungary, Poland, Lithuania, all this stuff in here, Bohemia, Bavaria, Milan, and Naples, and the Papal States, the Pope, Roma, right here, all kind of worked together to try to conquer Venice. Now, unfortunately, Venice's capital, Venetia, is very rich and on an island. So even if you take all of Venice's provinces, as long as Venice has a bigger navy than you, you can never take that island, so you can never force Venice to give up. They're just going to be mildly annoyed that they don't have as many provinces as they used to. But they're not going to die. And so, as France, I came to Venice's aid, so did Castile, and then eventually also England came in, and the entire Western European coalition of awesomeness, as well as Venice, fought against the Eastern European coalition of Austrianness, and Poland's efforts in the war were focused around taking Bosnia and Wallachia from Venice, right? And they succeeded. They got those two territories, made Poland much stronger. But they weren't actually in the war that would allow them to get down to send troops. So without the troops of Poland and Lithuania and all this other stuff, the Eastern Coalition, the Central European Coalition, lost the war. It was darn close. And Austria and Milan and all of these territories lost all of their troops. They also it also cost them separate pieces with Bavaria and some other people that they really wanted to maintain friendships with. And so it was very costly for Central Europe. It was very costly for me. I had to take out lots of loans and lose lots of manpower and stuff. And it was very, very costly for Castile, who had Grenada separate from them in a revolt during the war. Probably triggered by somebody funding rebels. And also it represents a large period of time where none of us were expanding, whereas during that playthrough, Muscovy expanded greatly, Poland expanded greatly, Sweden expanded greatly, England expanded at least a little bit, and all of these people were fighting a giant war. We didn't expand at all. We just kind of fought each other and threw our troops away. So overall, not a very profitable endeavor, but very fun and very cool. Anyway, these are graphs and charts, and they're very pretty, and I wanted to show them to somebody. And I didn't so much want to show them to the other players of the game, even though that's who they would most help, because then they would know as much as me, and I didn't do all this work just for everyone else to benefit, right? So, during the game, you can glance around and be like, okay, the Ottomans have a lot of territory, Algiers and the Mamluks have a lot of territory, but they're Muslims, so they probably don't have a lot of money, and they probably don't have very powerful troops. Muscovy tends to become a world power at some point and threaten to dominate the world even when it's just AI controlled, and Sweden is also tends to have really good generals and really good kings. So the Muscovy-Sweden alliance is something that the whole world should probably fear. The Ottomans, Mamluks, and Algiers together, especially if they can convince Poland and Muscovy to be on their side, could definitely threaten Austria. Although they probably won't do it soon because Persia and Hejaz and lots of other stuff need to be crushed first. But eventually that could be kind of scary. Then there's this coalition of Western Europe, England, France, and Castile, but we tend not to have anywhere to go, so we're going to tend to focus more on colonization, I would think, especially Castile and England. And then in the middle, everything in the middle is this giant Central European coalition. Normally it would be Central Europe here and Eastern Europe here, and Eastern Europe would slowly be crushed by Muscovy. But because everything is player controlled, as long as Poland is really nice to Muscovy, you never know. So, where's that button? Oh yeah, here's the button that shows you the empire. So everything in green is part of the empire. And if Austria is able to befriend enough of the imperial electors, then they get increasing degrees of control over the empire. And if the empire becomes too united and everybody in the empire starts working together instead of against each other, then that can be a pretty darn scary thing. So with all these giant coalitions existing and them all looking territorially very, very scary, I wanted to know which one's actually very scary. So that's where these charts and graphs came in. I went into the ledger and I input the force limits, the current military manpower, the current manpower, the current number of troops, the current manpower, gross income per month, all from the ledger into this, and then said whether the player controlled or AI controlled, and then input everybody's AI allies, which I just kind of counted as part of your nation, and then everybody's player allies, which much less dependable, right? And then I got everyone's individual based on just themselves and their AI controlled stuff power. So we got at the bottom Sweden, France, that's me. The Mamluks, Algiers, Muscovy, Milan, and Venice are all very weak personally. The Ottomans are in the middle. Saxony, surprisingly, England, Castile, Poland, and Austria are all right at the top of the list. Now, of the Western European coalition, the fact that Castile and England are drastically more powerful than France kind of bugs me. And the reason that happened is because the Western European coalition, yes, we fought the Central European coalition and won, but the majority of the dying came down to me because I'm the one who has lands bordering their lands. Especially England, disappointingly, although they did come like good allies, they didn't send any troops until the end of the war, and then they declared a separate peace in which they got Holland really quickly. So like basically France and Castile together fought against the Eastern Coalition, and we defeated their armies, but they still had hundreds of thousands of troops, and we still had hundreds of thousands of troops all running around. And then England came into the war late, saying, oh, well, I have 100,000 of my own troops, so that's the end of you. And they went and sieged up all this territory. So now, if we negotiate a peace for France and Castile first, we're in a really powerful position because Austria's not mining anything. Their whole territory is completely besieged by England, right? So the intelligent way to end the war would be for France and Castile to negotiate a peace while England just holds the siege. And then England after that, it would just be England against the Eastern European coalition, but England would already have a siege completed on them, so then England could negotiate their peace second, and then everyone could get lots of stuff from the Central Europeans. But that's not how it went. England came in quickly, didn't lose almost any troops at all. Once everything had been sieged up, they were like, all right, give me some territory, I'm out, and then they left. And so now Austria is not sieged up anymore, and they start replenishing their troops, and France and Castile have massive debts and very little manpower because of the initial fighting. So we had to negotiate a much weaker peace than we would otherwise have been able to get away with. We probably could have gotten these two islands away from Milan, or gotten some of this territory away from Burgundy, or something like that. But instead, we just got this one province away from Burgundy. So it wasn't really worth it. Very cool war. England kind of screwed us, but in the same respect, if they hadn't come, we'd be dead. So you don't want to complain too much about it. But I wish they would have been just a little more patient. We could have gotten so much more. Anyway. So that's the individual strength of everyone, right? Austria is clearly the most powerful individual in the entire world, as far as individuals go. And they're not even just a little bit more powerful than everyone else. They are drastically more powerful. They have 221 personally controlled 1,000 troops, compared to second place is Poland with only 157, and third place is Castile with only 143, and England with 136, and Saxony with 128, the Ottomans with only 112, and France way down here with 47,000 troops, right? So Austria's personal power is insane. Crazy, crazy powerful. Second is Poland, and Austria and Poland are super close friends because Poland immediately joined the empire, right? So if Austria just plays it the way that they want to play it, where they protect the empire and enact imperial reforms, eventually they kind of inherit Poland's land. So anything Poland does to expand themselves, that helps Austria. Poland just becomes Austria when Austria does well enough. So the fact that these two guys are the most powerful thing in the world, and the fact that they neighbor me directly, makes me very, very nervous. It also makes Russia pretty nervous. It also probably makes Sweden pretty nervous. It probably doesn't make Saxony nervous because Saxony is a member of the empire. But yeah, because the empire already went to war up north. Saxony is a member of the empire, and they're expanding into Swedish territory. They took all of this stuff from Denmark. So I'm sure that it makes Sweden at least a little bit nervous. And Poland is directly bordering Muscovy, so that probably makes them nervous too. So they're basically making everyone around them pretty nervous. Then we got the idea of who are you allied with and how powerful is your coalition of allies, right? Because my strength as France isn't necessarily my French troops. It is the fact that England and Castile and Venice will back me up if anything goes south, and that's how we won the last war, even though each of us individually isn't nearly as powerful as Austria. When it's 2-on-4, the 4 wins. So over here, allied income, again, Austria and Poland are leading the pack, but then Sweden and Muscovy are also doing quite well, and then the Western Europeans are doing quite terribly, actually. As far as allied military, Saxony is doing crazy well. Sweden and Muscovy are doing quite well, and the Eastern Europeans are doing well, but all of Western Europe and all of the Muslim countries are pretty crap. So then I broke it down by this concept of coalitions, right? So Western Europeans, even if we're not allied at any given moment, like for example right now England is not allied with France or Castile, they're going to come if we start to get encroached upon because they're right there. And if the empire expands west, eventually they're going to die, which is why England helped to resist against Hitler when he encroached upon France in World War II, man. Same general concept. And for the same reason, there's a Russian coalition of people who are near Russia and don't want Russia to kill them. They will tend to help Russia against any sort of incursion. Now, right now, everybody who's near Russia is allied with Russia because Russia is a scary thing. It's scary that Russia, right? So Sweden, Poland, and the Ottomans are Russia's immediate neighbors, and Russia has the option of pushing east and only fighting AIs all game, so long as everyone on the west of them remains their friend. So there's a lot of incentive for Poland and Sweden and the Ottomans to stay friends with Russia. So that makes them part of the Russian coalition, and so then up here we got the Russian coalition, and there it is. And in the same vein, the Ottomans, it's likely that if the Ottomans got attacked, the Mamluks and the Algerians would help. It's also likely that if Algiers got attacked, the Ottomans would help them, and the Mamluks would help them. They all can march troops across each other's territory to get there and help, or to get over here and help. So they form kind of a southern coalition at the edges, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea of the coalitions. And you can see, as far as strength is concerned, strength of income, Western European, Central European, and Eastern European all have identical incomes. So this area here, this is the Western European coalition, and we have the same income as this area here, including Poland, and this area here, including Austria, right? So the Eastern European coalition is Muscovy, Sweden, Lithuania, Poland, all of Poland's stuff, and Austria, but it doesn't include, for example, Bavaria. Whereas the Central European coalition includes Bavaria and Bohemia and Milan and Saxony and Poland, even though Saxony, who is part of the Central European coalition, is not part of the Eastern European coalition. So there's some overlap, but there's, separateness in there as well. So we made ourselves some cute little pie charts, and we drew up some cute little numbers to get just a general idea of how powerful everyone is. Currently, the smallest armies are the Muslim army, the Northern army, the Swedish kind of Northern army, the Russian army, and the Western European army, and then about twice as big as the Central and Eastern European armies, and then the largest army by far is the Holy Roman Empire. The current Holy Roman Empire can field 810,000 troops, nearly 1 million troops, whereas the entire Russian coalition of everyone you can see that's anywhere near Russia can only field 359,000 troops. So that Holy Roman freaking Empire is a scary, scary thing. Oops, don't push Q. Don't. What I did is bad. I want to undo what I did. No, it won't let me undo. Undo. Yes, I undid. Good times. Anyway, that's the status of the game. I'm going to follow this up with some clips, hopefully from the gameplay that I recorded. Most importantly, the giant war up in here, and anything else I can think of. And then hopefully later on next week, after we play 4 more hours of this game, I will follow up with the next game summary as well. Now this is really interesting to me because I'm playing in the game. But if it's not at all interesting to you guys, then maybe I'll stop doing updates. I just thought maybe it would be, especially because Sulking and Captain Panda will probably see it. So, good times.
Yes, let's celebrate.
do a little panda dance. Shake your panda butt.